Hi, my name is Benjamin Atwood. I'm here at DeVry to get my Computer and Devices Technology Associate's degree. Um, and I only have a couple more classes, so it's getting close to the end of it. During this session, though, I was to build a Compass module um, basically from scratch. You would take all the components, solder them to a board, um, and then after that modify the program. Instead of displaying the letters, you would display um, the arrows that would point directly to north. So during our first week, the first part of it was to take apart the the parts box and basically go through the checklist, make sure you have everything that you need to build the Compass module, which of course I had everything. Um, and so then the next portion of it was to um, start literally soldering everything, all the components to the board itself. Now here you can see this Compass module, and this was the first thing we had to solder to the board, and unfortunately it was the most difficult portion of, I think, of the soldering process. On the very back of it, you can see here that the pins are very close together, and you have basically three on each of the four corners that you had to solder to. Once I was done soldering those points, I had to go back through and double check to make sure that I didn't have any bridges. And to do that, I took out my multimeter, and basically within the points themselves, I was able to find that going one way it read of basically a resistance, and if it goes the other way, it has an open resistance, which means there's no resistance at all. So once I did the check and realized that my module was on correctly, uh, of course, then we move on to the to soldering the rest of the components to the board. LED screen, the chip, and of course the rest of the components, the resistors, the capacitor, things of that nature. Um, One of the other more difficult parts I thought of this board was soldering on the female connection, so we can plug it into the multimeter board. So when we go to modify the software program, we can connect it to the multimeter board and connect it up. So basically, you can manipulate the program from there. I think once I had gotten everything soldered up, um, I noticed on a couple of the boards, the discussion boards, that we needed to upload the software from Flowcode version 3 on the Citrix server. So I went in there and I went ahead and downloaded the Flowcode version onto my hard drive. Then from there, I uploaded it to the Flowcode, and then put it into the hex form. Downloaded the PPP program, so basically the computer can talk to the computer chip itself. Once I downloaded the program onto the chip, it was such a good feeling, because at that point the LED itself lit up and it showed me that I was pointing southwest, and it was just, it makes you realize that you have completed the first portion of this project. Now, when it came to modifying the program, there were a couple things. What you had to do basically was go back in and figure out what part of the display you wanted to show to light up when it shows the arrows, because in the original program it doesn't have the right pin connection to the display from the chip itself. So once you modify the program, which I ended up doing because I figured out what part of the segments I wanted to light up. Once I got that figured out, I input the calculations into the flow code program for each one of the 8 points on the compass. So then it was just a matter of going back and cutting the jumper wires and then soldering them from the LED board onto the back from here to the chip itself, which is located up here. So what I did was basically you start here where the square portion of the pin set or the back of the board, which denotes the first pin, and then you just literally count all the way down over to where you need to go. One of the more difficult parts was, unfortunately, during my the building of this circuit, I had to I couldn't get a hold of the Citrix servers. So basically, during that week that we were supposed to modify the program, I was unable to because I waited till Sunday. So I said, well, I'll take this time and I'll go ahead and solder the jumpers. Well, what I didn't think about was I have to plug this into the multi-programmer board. So when I put it into the multi-programmer board, it ended up I had to bend the wires over, and as I bent them over, my solder joint wasn't as well on this wire right here, and it ended up snapping off of the solder joint, so I just had to resolder it. It was a pretty easy fix, but I just waited until I got everything uploaded. Another issue was when I went to transcribe my calculations to the flow code, I ended up transcribing, flipped a couple of the numbers. You know, as soon as it lit up, I thought, well, that doesn't look right. And went back through, rechecked my calculations, made sure everything worked just fine. So we were good there. Now, another problem I ran into was here on the power module, or the power cord that comes off of the board itself. It ended up snapping off on me, and it wasn't my solder, thank goodness, because I was kind of nervous about that. It was the wire itself, because I'd been moving it around so much, because unfortunately the way this is designed, it doesn't have anything to connect the battery to the board itself. So when it snapped off, I actually had to go out to the store, bought a magnifying glass, bought a desoldering braid. I put the desoldering braid on it, hit it with the gun, with the heat gun. It ended up melting out. I used a toothpick, punched through, pushed the wire back through, resoldered the connection, and everything seems to be working just fine. So I do want to demonstrate that it does work, and it does say the arrows and whatnot. So as I turn the compass module, you can tell that my arrows have changed, and they do point to true north as you turn the module. So I did have a successful time here in this session, and I feel like I've gotten more comfortable with my soldering. I've gotten more comfortable with fixing mistakes and realizing that double check everything before you move on to the next step. I've had a wonderful time, and thank you for letting me do this. This was great. Thank you. Bye.